Welcome, everyone, to today's DZOne Fireside Chat on artificial intelligence, man versus machine. Generative and conversational AI is a new kind of computer, in my opinion, one that we program in human language. This has profound implications. Now, anyone can direct computers to solve problems using nothing but natural language. This is kind of a completely new computing platform, like the PC or internet or mobile, cloud. The iPhone moment for AI has arrived. It's here. Now, we're here with some experts in the field to explore this today, and we've been covering how AI has evolved, the impacts it has on our society, both personally and in the workplace, and some glimpses into the future of what may lie ahead. My name's Jesse. I'm the Chief Technologist here at DZOne, and I'll be our moderator today. I'm super excited to introduce you to our panel of experts. So first up, we have Dr. Tuhin, Professor of AI and Analytics of Jagdish School of Management and the founder and CEO of his own company, Tuhin AI Advisory. Welcome, Dr. Tuhin. We have Kellyn. Kellyn's been on with us before. You may recognize her, Principal CSA at Microsoft, and Sibanjan, Senior Director of Data Science at ServiceNow. Now, as we get started, it's super interesting to think about how quickly AI has come up. However, it's not happened overnight. You know, we want to look a little bit at the history of AI. Like, how did this all start? This isn't something that just happened this year. It's grown rapidly. But Dr. Tuhin, why don't you give us a little bit of history? Like, how did we get here?
Sure. Let me, clarify the two things here. Number one is, of course, the beginning part, the inception part, and the current state, and whether we are calling AI to what we commonly see as AI. So that is a big difference between the two. So the inception starts in the 1950s when the forefathers like Turing, Simon, they all came out and they thought that why can't we develop a machine that can think like human beings, that can reason like humans, that can perceive like humans, and then they can mimic exactly, rationalize, speak exactly like human beings. That was the objective. So with that objective in place, the neural network started, machine learning came up, but then there is a kind of slight difference that's going on currently. The difference is that what we are currently seeing, all our large language models like GPT-4 or even the image recognition or the speech recognition, these are essentially machine learning. Now, what do I mean by that? In 1 minute, I shall clarify. So machine learning is essentially what they do. They actually train themselves on the past data. And then based on the training data, they predict. So you are training the machines and the machines actually give the prediction. Now, AI, as our forefathers vision, that is something more than that. That is something very critical. What is more than that? It is about the decision-making capabilities. That is very important. So machine learning and AI are not exactly synonymous. Why I'm saying this thing on the very first place, because what we are saying as AI is not exactly AI. There are a lot of other things should be there on the top of this machine learning. For example, the reinforcement learning. We have got the games like AlphaGo, AlphaZero, who can play chess. That's exactly decision making. So we have started there, and that's the kind of journey we have diverted a bit, calling the machine learning as AI. A lot of things are happening, but that's in a very nutshell, that's the journey is.
That's great. And so I had the same kind of thoughts in my head, right? Because as you said, Dr. Turing came up with the famous Turing test, right? Yep. To see if machines could actually think and make decisions. And Kellyn, I'm going to ask you the next part of this, but as we think through that, Dr. Tuhin, I had the same idea, right? And I always tell people machine learning's not the same as AI, and this is more machine learning, right? It's funny. I asked ChatGPT if it thought itself was AI and if it could pass the Turing test. And it said, yes, in some cases, I would be considered an artificial intelligence. I'm an AI language model, specifically the GPT-4 architecture. And my primary function is to understand and generate human-like text based on the input I receive. And then you ask it if it would pass the Turing test, and it said to some people it would and to some it wouldn't. And I think you're hitting on it's that decision-making capability. It's actually predicting what the next word should be, which is a good point. But Kellyn, so again, we've been doing this for a while, and you go back in the data spheres as far as I, go back in the 90s. So when we think about this, though, I want to capture on, how this all started, but also, what role should we play in the development and the use of this artificial intelligence? Like what are some of the implications and things we need to be looking out for, or have people been looking out for? Like we have fantasized AI in so many of our different movies and things like that. So what are we doing here?
I think we all fear the Terminator. We don't want the Terminator, but we're also, I mean, I come from a DBA role. I was always, the gatekeeper. I think we are both the shepherds and the gatekeeper of all of this technology, that it's extremely important as we start to envision where it can go, how it can assist our day-to-day lives. When we start talking about neural networks and where these, new technologies have come about, and what it could, I just look at what ChatGPT couldn't do 7 weeks ago versus what it can do today. I mean, it's astounding to me. I've been running it through tests day in and day out. Oh, I have a break. Let's test this today. Yeah. It's amazing what we're seeing day in and day out. Copilot has been very interesting as we start talking about like Microsoft realm, because I think every Microsoft product inside the company is going, here's our AI solution for this year in this product. Everybody's doing it. We know that marketing is having a field day. But for me, I mean, as I look at Bard, as I look at Midjourney, DALL-E, I mean, it didn't matter if I was looking at, images, artwork, as we talk about it, no matter if I'm looking at it from my side of the realm and code generation and the ability to help me do more with less. I'm one of those resources inside the company that is extremely limited. And for me to do more with less means that can I put in, vector inputs and have it come out with and export those outputs of allowing it to take batch scripts and create bash scripts so that they don't rely so heavily on me for some of my customers. As we talk about that dinosaur farmer, there's not a lot of us dinosaurs left. So can we do more with newer technology to do less with the older technologies? This is lovely for me. This helps me out. But that's where I think we have to be those shepherds of, AI and make sure that we're not building something that one builds us into a corner. Two, that we still have opportunities for, those folks that are coming into different fields, that they're not, locked out, that we are doing it in a way that does it with the idea that this is harnesses AI. It does not hinder our future. It does not put us at risk. And then we start talking about, and I'm hoping we will discuss this, is data governance, data protection. The future of it is a big deal for me. Again, I'm that gatekeeper, and folks are already starting to discuss about opening up databases to AI. And you're thinking, then everybody can see everything. That's not happening. I don't even want you to look at my database. You must be kidding me. So it's very interesting as we start to move forward into this realm.
Mm-hmm. And Sibanjan, same question. Like, we talked about machine learning versus AI, in the true sense. But this thing is here, right? It's the thing that we have before us, the machine learning and the AI they'll eventually meet at some point, right? And we'll talk about that when we talk about futures. But where do you weigh in on the usability of these things and how the history has played us to where we are today?
Yeah, and what Dr. Tuhin said earlier, like it started a way back, right? And after, and every time it has seen some kind of what it called AI winter, which means, there were kind of some roadblocks in, further development of the AI. And that was because of, multiple reasons there. One, at that point in time, we didn't have the platform that exists today. At that point of time, we didn't have those, data processing capability and all that we have now, right? And so, what is happening now is quite a bit of interplay between these platforms, the advanced models, the usage of this model, because people are really using AI, right? It's not in the labs now. People are really using it, and from there we are getting that feedback, and we are developing further on that. And that's where this field, AI as a field, is growing, right? Which was not there earlier. And one of the thing that we all know is that this ChatGPT, right? Now, GPT models existed before that. Large language models existed before that. 2018, the first GPT model came in, right? Yep. Before that, there was something what we call is natural language generation. NLP existed, okay? But people didn't know about that, okay? And what was missing is this UX part, right? Chat in that GPT, right? Now, what OpenAI did, they created that interface where it went out of this AI space from these AI developers to general public, and everyone started using that, and that's where people came to know about AI a lot more.
Yeah.
Okay, and there is a lot of traction there. Just as an example, my father, who is more than, is 70 years old. He had been in medical profession. He was a, medical practitioner. No way he is related to AI or engineering. Last week, he messaged me, hey, do you know about generative AI? This is ChatGPT or something, That was a kind of, wow moment. Okay. So it has gone to that, that level, that penetrated there, right? So people know about it, and that's where, it's ongoing.
Yeah, and that's a good transition point. I mean, I want to explore next a little bit about the societal impact. Right. I said it before. I believe this is an iPhone moment, if you will, for AI. ChatGPT is like when the iPhone came out. We're not exactly sure where it's going to take us, but everybody knows about it. Everybody wants to play with it and use it, and everybody thinks it's great. Right. But sometimes I think we can't garner the appropriate emotional response to what a real artificial intelligence, when created, right, will do to us as a human species. Right. And we'll get into that. But as we get into that, right, what are some of the things, these current applications, if you will, of artificial intelligence or ChatGPT, these generative AIs, that you find particularly fascinating? And Dr. Tuhin, I'll turn it to you. So what are some of the things that you're seeing that really interest you?
See, there are a number of things, and I shall start from the generative part. So when we are talking about the generative word, we should not think that it is restricted to the words only. Nowadays, image can be generated, sound can be generated. That means all the musics can be composed, paintings can be composed. If I just train my model with Van Gogh's painting, as I was discussing before our chat starts, or even the Monet's painting, a new Picasso, a new Monet, a new Van Gogh painting can be created. A new Beethoven music, a new Mozart symphony can be created by my model. So that is definitely fascinating. That is definitely fascinating when we are, or kind of, any particular novel, not only the plot, but also the writing style of that particular author can be taken forward. So these things are definitely fascinating, where the technology leaves a huge impact towards arts, towards society, towards any fields you think. Look at the sports, how sports are leveraging the power of AI. Or I'm a animal lover, so how the entire wildlife, say how the poaching in Uganda, poaching at Cambodia are being controlled by the use of AI. Or for example, how in Greenland and in the Alaska, the penguins are being tracked, and their population are being ensured that they have the right habitations and they live the right life through AI. So, of course, there are multiple areas, say education, how I can customize, personalize the education, make it more interesting through gamification, where the students can take their decisions. So there are a number of applications where it touches the human lives, animal lives, society at large, through art, science, everywhere. It's extremely fascinating. One can't just be blind of the implications.
We have now these generative AIs that will generate art. And so they can take your face. And I loaded some selfies to generate some new headshots to see. And it's neat to see yourself in these, but the idea that they are creating things, which normally was a very human trait, right, is really fascinating. I agree completely, Dr. Tuhin. That's really cool. Kellyn, what about you? You're thinking about some stuff over there.
I've done a little bit of work with DALL-E and Midjourney, and one of the interesting challenges gets into intellectual content. You have a lot of folks, a lot of artists who have created much of the content that goes into this. And as much as we see what's coming out of it, we have to understand what it is drawn from. And that those artists, you can say, well, this is my artwork that has been generated from it. You will often see watermarks that come out of it, especially those that may not be as powerful as like Midjourney and that when we get into some of the other ones. One that I'm very fascinated watching right now is Adobe Firefly that is doing this in a much more ethical way. I'm really impressed with their product, that they are very keen on saying we will make sure that we use, open source products. And it may not look as beautiful as some of the stuff that's coming out of Midjourney, and at the same time, you feel better about using it. And I think that's something that kind of comes to mind. The idea that I'm stealing from somebody might be very concerning to myself. I feel guilty about that. Yeah. And I feel that same way when I'm looking at ChatGPT and watching it generate code. The idea that it does not give that credit to maybe where credit is due, I'm going to feel that same way. I know how I feel about my own scripts. I know how I would feel about others. So that's where part of this ethics comes into play when we start talking about where AI is at this point and how much is it pulling from other people's intellectual content.
Yeah, my brother was mentioning that, and he showed me a couple of examples where you can ask for some generated code and it'll give you comments. You can tell where it came from. You can see the author. That just makes me feel not good, right?
Yeah.
On one hand, it's really cool to see it create. On the other hand, it's not a real AI, as we discussed before. It's creating, but it's replicating and changing a little bit. So it's a fascinating place to live. Sibanjan, what are your thoughts here before we move on?
Yeah, but I'm not that much of artistic and all, but if I see, what I really like is the content generation part. We write hundreds of emails, we reply to hundreds of emails, right? If AI can do that, summarize the content for us, we have to go through a lot of documents if it summarizes the content, and that's what this large language models does to a quite great extent there. So if I think of AI, other than this all this content generation part, or generating images, videos, and all, I think if AI can make life easier by automating some of the repetitive tasks, and what we have right now, the optimization problems, right? Optimize the deliveries, optimize the code or something, optimization problems, or something like it recommends, recommender systems that we have right now. Though these are based on machine learning, but definitely when we move towards the AGI component, there, we have different methods there where it becomes further personalized, and it's going to assist us in various ways, and that is something that I really like, some tangible benefits other than something like generating image and get into the legal suits there or so on, right? So
yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's a tool, right? I mean, in some instances and we'll talk about developers next, so y'all can start thinking about that, but it's fascinating to look at if I need kind of a script or something automated or a real quick bit of code or something to connect up to an AI. Or any other type of API, even ChatGPT's own API for its AI. You can generate code to help you get there. And so I want to talk a little bit about the effect that this is having on businesses, because as you can imagine, if you're a brand new, so first of all, I'll level set. We were in a huge deficit for developers worldwide. We've been there for a long, long time. And then we had a huge number of layoffs earlier in the year, right? And now we have this code generator thing, which is doing the work of some of your junior developers. So I'm wondering what job outlooks are going to look like. If you're a mid-level marketing specialist that's doing, I don't know, maybe value prop messaging or something like that, some, email campaign generation. Is this a moment like where we had with Ford and GM and Toyota? Is this a moment where we used to have a factory floor full of people? Are we going to replace that factory floor with robots? And in this case, some of these AIs or machine learning things. I mean, these are real questions. So where do you think we're going to go And Dr. Tuhin, we'll start with you again first. So let us know what your thoughts are around this.
So, again, I shall keep these answers in two levels. One is where we are heading towards and what are the implications of that. Because implications are equally very concerning to the world at large from the job perspective. So now where we are heading towards. Recently, GitHub Copilot has come, we all know, like, as you mentioned, that the developers, there's a huge shortage, but then the codes can be generated. For last few years, we have got the data robots kind of thing. Initially, for any analytics projects or data science projects, we used to spend some 6 months doing a particular project. But now, starting from the data cleaning to figuring out which particular algorithm can be used or should be used on that, applying that particular algorithm, validating the model, comparing across the different ML algorithms, validating and deployment. All the stages of data science are currently being automated. So that way, AI takes a huge, massive, not only AI, it is actually AI plus automation. There are two things go hand in hand. So we call it cognitive automation. That's the kind of new buzzword. So cognitive automation takes this entire technology world huge or massive leap forwards. So definitely you look at, as you mentioned, digital marketing or any of the fields you see, there are definitely the applications of AI analytics, automation, cognitive automation that makes our life far easy. So that is one part of the story. The second part is that there is a growing concern among the different employees of the organizations, the aspiring folks like the students, where the jobs will be. Will our jobs be taken? So that kind of concerns come. If everything is done by AI, if robots come to the factory level, factory floor, then who are going to do the jobs? So here my perspective is that it is not just binary. It is not binary that AI versus humans. It's not like that. It is about augmenting the works, augmenting the current works with the help of AI so that your work gets further refined in the sense that human errors come down, it becomes more precise, more effective, the time part comes down, number one. Number two is that it opens up a lot more AI developers, machine learning engineers on the field. There is a huge scope for AI ethics, as Kellyn was touching on the governance part. A lot of AI ethics will come. And then how I can model that is not ethics, just kind of lecture or the English words. How I can model ethics into my AI models, how I can integrate that. So there's a huge scope of jobs as well, while the traditional things might be curbed, but everything will be augmented. And now think of a kind of human faculty. Now, if today the person, as Sibanjan gave the example of his father, in that way, everybody's life had been touched. Everybody had started thinking on the AI perspective. That way, the human faculty has opened up. That's something very interesting. That is the kind of development of the humankind intellectually. That's something really fascinating, I must say.
Mm-hmm. And it's important. And Kellyn, I know you want to say something. I can see you, and we'll get to you in a second. It's, we talk a little bit about human augmentation over the past, 10 to 15 years in the biomedical field, right? Artificial red blood cells and drugs that are all over our universities that were developed for one thing, but used for, cognitive enhancement. And now we have this other interesting tool that can augment humans. And we've been looking at, imagine, how this is going to overlay with my glasses. Y'all remember Google, Lens or Google Glass, whatever it was, the little thing, with marrying the databases that we won't have access to. I'm trying to say how to say that without upselling Kellyn. But you put all this stuff together and you get a really interesting outcome. And I do want to address that concern though. Like, there are a lot of benefits to it. There's also a lot of risks, and we've talked a lot about benefits. And then the ethics, building that in there. So, Kellyn, your thoughts around this area.
Well, we were just talking about data governance, and what we do know is that there's going to start being this global data AI that folks are feeding into. And we're also going to have a lot of private cloud data AI that will be fed in for private companies to protect their data governance, that they need to have their internal AI that will be doing a lot of the automation, a lot of that generative AI that cannot be public, They cannot expose it in any way.
Right.
Now, is there going to be automatic protection from data breaches? I don't think we can guarantee that. I don't think anybody can. You hear that all the time. It's not if you're going to have a data breach, it's when. We need to actually be prepared for that. I think that's only going to escalate with AI, because folks don't think about that. Folks very often, as I stated, there's a lot of marketing folks going, we're building AI into this and this and this, and all the technical people are going, do you really think that's a good idea? Should
Our
we
security
really be doing this?
roundtable. Yeah, they have something
exactly.
to say.
Yeah, you have to have that balance. That it's always about a balance. So we're seeing this. Now, one of the things that we're seeing right now is also that, like, McDonald's had their news story that came out where everybody's working from home right now while they look at their entire operation spectrum and decide how they're going forward with their business. And I see many of their jobs at risk, more so than the technical folks. Everybody says, oh, they're going to replace all the programmers and, the day of the programmer is gone. I personally don't see that. My technical field is quite protected because they still need those of us that are quite mature and quite robust in our programming skills and capabilities in the technical arena. But those, I guess you'd say, the blue collar jobs and everything else may be more at risk with AI, and that you can automate that. Even today, when I go into a McDonald's restaurant, much of that is done at a computer terminal. You're no longer taking orders there. How much can be automated that can be done through AI that we didn't really think about as part of AI?
Yeah. Awesome. Sibanjan.
Yep. Yeah, so I mean, there are jobs that would potentially, decline, right? What Kelly said about the McDonald's things, also the customer support representatives, in contact center and all, because we are automating a lot of chat related things, right? And so it's a kind of what jobs is going to grow. It's AI related jobs. Okay. Now, do you need to be an AI developer? No. We need people. Okay. We need people to mentor AI, right? To train AI or to give feedback to AI, right? And that's where, people can transition. For example, couple of days back, I came to know about a new term, prompt engineering. Now, in our time when we were studying, it was computer engineering, mechanical or electrical. Now it's a prompt engineering. Now it's a new term I heard. I went inside that and I tried to understand that, it's something like, how do you create those prompts so that, GPT can perform, or these LLMs can perform effectively. They return the results, in a better way, what is required and all. And also it is needed to, further train those LLM models. Okay, so it's a kind of evolving, field there. And people like, whose jobs are going out because of the automation due to AI, they have a lot of, domain knowledge or, business analysts who can really create this kind of prompts and, train the AIs going forward, right?
Right. And I do want to spend a little bit of time on something Kellyn brought up. And Kellyn, so from your perspective, right, how can we make sure that artificial intelligence is developed, that these systems are developed and used in an ethical and responsible manner? I mean, Dr. Tuhin said it'll start learning, but what are some of the things that you think we need to do to make sure that happens?
Have ethics groups that are part of your AI. I know that somebody stated that, Microsoft was laying off some of theirs, but it doesn't mean that you're laying off your ethics groups. Is that you're building out your ethics group and making them more, more efficient, and building out those groups in a way as actual role shift, and we go through reorgs, that it's quite common. I think that's extremely crucial, that folks are asking those tough questions. Make sure you're passionate. People that are passionate about AI are not silenced, that you listen to them and have those open discussions. A lot of times folks didn't really think about that. They weren't even bringing in like their database administrators. And that was one of the things that I found. That's how I was introduced to the prompt engineer, is that they started following me on Twitter. And I'm like, who are these folks? Who are these people? And started talking to them and found out what a prompt engineer is. And I realized that these were the folks that could find anything on Google. I'm letting you know that's who they're very good at finding things on Google and Bing and everything else. Those are your folks that actually become very good prompt engineers. They're able to form those questions, train those AI very well. And as I started working with them, of realizing that you bring in your, I guess you'd say, your round table, and I think like King Arthur, you want all the folks at the table asking those questions that need to be asked, and the folks who actually understand what you're trying to accomplish too. Many times you'll have naysayers just to be naysayers. No, you need your passionate folks who understand what you're trying to accomplish. Bring them to the table and ask the real questions.
Someone who's both excited about the creation of new things, but also wants to protect copyright. For example, that's a great example. And Sibanjan, as we look at this, building these ethics and make sure we're doing this in a responsible way, what are some of the risks of what we're doing? I mean, we've talked a lot about the benefits, but what are some of the risks?
It's about those exposing the data, the private data, PIA information, using if we are not training the models on the right data, and what we see right now, it's all trained on data, right? GPTs and all, it's just, I would say, one form of information encoding. It's not what Dr. Tuhin said at the beginning of this session on reinforcement learning. But now a lot of information is getting encoded. Now it really depends on how are we training the models, right? And if you train the models on a big data set or which has already a built-in bias there, a discrimination there, then that's a risk. It's going to it's going to produce results which are not trustworthy kind of results, and that's one of the risks there. So we need to be pretty sure on what data that the model is getting trained on, and for that we actually need to have a very good AI governance framework in place, right? And we should have a rigorous testing approach there, okay? And because we can trust something when we believe that, right? And then that's where the explainability also comes into picture, right? Instead of these black box models, if we try to build that explainable layer, then people will definitely trust it, okay? Because they understand how this what data this model is using to produce these results, right? And that's quite important there to build this trust in the models, in these AI models. GPTs and all, we are not there yet. It's like a black box. There has been discussions, right? Is it random? Is it creative? Is it what? And all those things, because we don't know, right? We don't know what's getting there and what data it is trained on and all, right? So it's very much important to have that explainability part so that people really understand on what basis we are getting those results, and they will trust the applications there.
Very cool. Last question. We're almost out of time. It's shocking. I feel like we could talk about this all day. But I want everyone to think a little bit about how you feel about the future of AI, right? I've had people tell me they're afraid, that they're anxious. I'm both excited. I'm a little bit excited to see where it's going to go, cautiously optimistic, if you will. I sometimes think that AI, if we ever build it, will see us like ants. They won't really care if they're going to build a road. We're going to build a road and we see ants in the way. We really don't think about it, right? We just build the road. But it's interesting to think about that. I want to end on that. Like, what are your feelings around that? And Dr. Tuhin, let's start with you, and then we'll wrap up.
Sure. See, there are two things here again. One is what is AI and how AI is being marketed. Everything gets marketed. What is AI and how AI is getting marketed? These two things are very different. I am following these marketing terms for quite some time. I don't want to say the names. We have all known how people are describing it as scary and all those things, quote unquote. But there's nothing to be scary about. It's about the technology getting developed. It is not a kind of sci-fi movie that an alien will come through a kind of object, flying object, and then they will come and kill us. This happens in the movies. It's not. This AI is typically for our work purpose. So there are obvious reasons for marketing in that way, which we all know. But there is nothing to be scary about it. That is so funny, for not only for me, I'm sure for all the technology guys. What is so scary about it? It's scary. It's about making our life easy. This is helping in many things, as we discussed. only one thing I can add on a serious note about how to get rid of the ethics part, how to get rid of unethical things and ensure that the ethics take place. So that is something very scary, truly, if a lot of unethical things or things which can really harm us in terms of fraudulent activities, how that can take place. Now, for that purpose, I don't believe in all these discourses, to be very honest, ethical bodies, governances, that doesn't help. I believe only in data and model. So if there is currently one model which helps in kind of prediction or the AI part, there will be a number of parallel constraint models, a number of constraints models on each of the dimension of ethics, which will ensure that if this is my prediction model goes on straight away for the machine learning part, and then the constraints ensure that it passes, this particular main model should pass through these multiple tests. So essentially, our AI models would be further stronger. The entire ecosystem of the models with multiple technologies is not only AI, a lot of entire industry 4.0, be it automation, air, data engineering, cloud computing, all those things will come, even cybersecurity. And then multiple models will work in tandem to ensure that the AI models in the right form and place comes to us for our benefit. That's all.
Okay. All right, Sibanjan, how do you feel?
Yeah, but I feel we are currently, witnessing the tremendous power that AI has. We are seeing that. We have started to feel that. Now, with all this great power, so comes great responsibility. And any innovation has the potential to benefit the society as well as harm the society. Okay. Now it's in our hands how we use it, right? When nuclear, countries have nuclear powers. Now it is up to them. How do they use it? For destruction or for good, right? Even when batteries were invented, it was for good, but people are using it to also power up, missiles and all those things. So AI also has tremendous power to change the world, both for making it prosperous, or also can be used for destruction or increasing bias and discrimination in the world. But there can be policies and frameworks. We can have all those things, but it is up to us. How do you drive it, and how do you bring a positive change in our society as a whole? We cannot restrict. We cannot restrict anything. We can only innovate and drive the things out. So
got it. All right, Kellyn wraps up.
I find that a lot of ethics directly corresponds, the challenges in ethics directly corresponds the amount of revenue that somebody's able to be gained by it. That's what I'm really seeing. Most people that are challenging this, most people that are threatened by it, they're absolutely concerned about their revenue bottom line. And that is going to continually be a problem with it. If things like ChatGPT and other ones stay more open source, I think that it's a bigger benefit to the human race. It may not be as invested in outside of technology, but I think it has more of a benefit to the human race at that point. So that's where my score kind of goes, is that if you keep it less politics, less revenue, less capitalism, it seems to do better overall.
All right. So we've covered everything. First of all, thank you to each of you. That was a whole lot of fun, and I hope very informative to everybody out there watching. Plus 10 cool points to Sibanjan for a Spider-Man reference. Just if any of you are out there and you want to see more events like this, you can visit all of our on-demand events and recordings at dzone.com/events. Just go here. We would like you to stay on for just a minute if you would. We always like to be doing better. So if you could stay on and fill out a short survey for us, that would be great. We hope to see you next time.